In the last session, we looked at the 4 responsibilities of business. One is the economic. The firm has to do economic activity in order to be in the marketplace. That is, it must do this. This economic activity which the firm does has to conform to legal accepted boundaries. That is, legal have to do, that is, you have to conform to these boundaries. The third is ethical, that is, the firm has to follow certain ethical principles with respect to its business. So, making false claims about the product which it puts out into the market, they are not ethical business. The firm should desist from doing all this. The last one is discretionary. What is discretionary? Discretionary is which the firm might consider doing if everything is okay with respect to the firm. There are some discretionary activities which the firm can consider doing. This we call it under the head of corporate social responsibility. Before we go further into this business, I come back to my book on strategic management. As I told you in the last session, chapter number 3 gives you corporate governance. Under this corporate governance, so many real happenings which have happened are listed here. The one which you can read with interest is the case of the Eastman Kodak Company. So, period 83 to 93 saw the company falling from the top 10 to bottom 18 of the most admired companies. So, the person who was responsible to bring the Eastman Company back on wheels was the new CEO, that is George Fisher. What did he do? He said cost cutting alone would not be the answer. Companies should look for growth opportunities in imaging as well as start divesting non-core businesses. So, this was the type of suggestion made, and this worked for the company. So, this Kodak represents a classic case of how the company had failed to adjust to the changing environment by its lack of strategic response. So, in other words, what we were discussing in the earlier sessions, the role of the CEO becomes very important. He is the real motivator, the person who can be the harbinger of the fortunes of the firm. So, many firms have really found that their fortunes have changed, many cases to the better, some cases nosedived because of the CEO's vision. Chapter number 4 of the book looks at the code and laws for corporate governance. I strongly urge each one of you to purchase these 2 books, that is the Strategic Management, the Indian Context, published by Prentice Hall, the 6th edition. Similarly, the case studies in Marketing, the Indian Context, published again by Prentice Hall, the 7th edition, and both these the 7th edition of the case studies book, also very popular. Kindly refer to this book also, the case studies in marketing, published again by Prentice Hall, the 7th edition. So, kindly purchase these books. These books have come out in the Eastern Economy edition from Prentice Hall, priced very moderately, so that most of the students can afford the purchase of these books, and I am positive that these books will be a welcome addition to your collection. The code and laws of for corporate governance is discussed in chapter number 4. It discusses basically 4 committee reports. One is the Cadbury committee report, the second one is the CII committee report, the third one is the Kumar Mangalam Birla report, the fourth one is the Narayan Murthy committee report. So, this first one, that is the Cadbury committee report, it was set up in May 91 by the Financial Reporting Council of the London Stock Exchange. The major recommendations are given on page number 54. The CII report, that is our own Confederation of Indian Industry, in 1996 came up with this report. Then the Kumar Mangalam Birla committee report, it was again in 1999 set up by this SEBI, the Securities and Exchange Board of India. The major recommendations are given on page number 55 and 56. The next one is the Narayan Murthy report. This was in 2003. Some of the recommendations are listed on page number 56. What are they? All audit committee members should be financially literate. Kindly note this term, financially literate, and at least one member should have accounting or related financial management expertise. This is very, very important, because so many financial bunglings are reported in the present day setup. So, this board of directors will be better served if they have these types of members. They can know what is really happening. Mere explanation as to why a company has followed a different accounting standard from the prescribed standards will not be sufficient. Example, suppose you are operating only in India, there is no need for you to follow the US standards, that is optional. Suppose you are catering to both the markets, so you can follow those standards and as well as the Indian standards. Board members should be informed about risk assessment and minimization procedures. This is very, very important, because board will not be able to go through minutely many of the matters which are put up to the board for consideration of investment. So, a company like Infosys has a person at the level of vice president for risk assessment. So, any investment which the company makes, the vice president has to give his inputs to the board. Is it worth going about? What are the different scenarios? What are the different alternative scenarios? Board members should be trained in the business model of the company as well as the risk profile of the business parameters. So, in other words, a board member should not be a dummy person. Okay, he comes to the board meeting and walks off. Their responsibilities as directors and best ways to discharge them. He should be conversant with his responsibility and how to discharge them in the best possible manner. Use of proceeds of IPO should be disclosed to the audit committee. So, I was referring to this as so many bunglings in the present day set up by companies. So, similarly with respect to IPOs, you receive money, how is this being used? All this should be disclosed to the audit committee. There should be no nominee directors when a director is to be appointed on the board, and shareholders shall make such appointments. Board of directors limiting the maximum number of stock options that can be granted to non-executive directors in any financial year may fix compensation paid to non-executive directors. Whistleblowers should not subject to unfair or prejudicial employment practices. A peer group comprising the entire board of directors, excluding the director being evaluated, should make the performance evaluation of non-executive board members. There was one more committee, that is the Naresh Chandra committee in 2002. It also did work on the corporate governance issues. It was given the task of analyzing and recommending changes, if necessary, in various areas like statutory auditor company relationship, independence of auditing functions, certification of accountants and financial statements by managers and directors, adequacy of regulation of chartered accountants, company secretaries, cost accountants and other similar statutory oversight functionaries, the role of independent directors, etc. So, it gave detailed regulations on auditors' role, etc. You can refer to all this. In 2013, the Companies Act was amended by the Parliament. So, what are the salient features of this amendment is listed on page number 58. Suppose some of you are interested to go through in more detail on these issues, kindly refer to the Gazette of India, Extraordinary, Part 2, Section 1, number 27, August 30, 2013. So, this is the reference which you should refer, where it has been gazetted, all these committee, all these recommendations, the amendments, etc. So, with all this, so the responsibility of doing business becomes even more categorical. So, all these heads, economic, legal, ethical and discretionary, they have put them under different boundaries. So, a company cannot violate these boundaries. If it violates, it will be subject to stringent actions. So, this is what is happening in the present day setup in the Indian context. So, if you really look at what is happening to many of the Chinese firms, the government came down with a heavy hand. So many financial bunglings happened. Non-existent directors were shown. So, these are all unethical practices which were done by the companies, and it was detected, and when it was detected, the government took prompt corrective actions to see that these things do not recur. So, this is what is happening in the present day globalized scenario in the Indian context. So many things are moving with respect to the economy. So, India wants to become a $5 trillion economy, and in order to achieve that, so many steps are being taken, including the Make in India, and to become self sufficient in so many sectors. Now, with all this, we go further on this for social responsibility. The social responsibilities, as I mentioned, coming under the head of ethical and discretionary. What is ethical responsibility? The ethical responsibility looks at utility. What is this utility? Does it optimize the satisfaction of the stakeholders? Should behave in such a way that it produces the greatest benefit to the society and least harm at the lowest cost. The lowest cost is also important. Then rights, what are rights? Does it respect the rights of the individuals involved? The third one on justice. Is it consistent with the canons of justice? Decision makers should be equitable, fair and impartial in the distribution of costs and benefits to individuals and society. In other words, you are really to act as a person following the norms of justice, not be biased. So, these are the heads of this ethical responsibility, and the first firm incidentally to do this social audit in the country was a public sector firm. Again, kindly note that the role of the public sector has been very considerable right from the corporate planning down to social responsibility. They have shown lot of initiatives, and the company that I am referring to is IPCL, Indian Petrochemicals Limited, and the period was December 1987. So, the social audit came into India in 1987 only. So, even to this day in many countries the social audit system is not really there, many of the so called developing countries. But when we look at India, we are much ahead, kindly note that. Second is this IPCL, what did it do with respect to social audit in 1987? It formed 4 groups. One was employees, second was customers, third was government, fourth was society. It gave a weightage to each of these groups. The weightage given was an equal weightage, that is 25% to each group. After giving this weightage, what did it do? These are called focus groups for social audit. So, when you do social audit, you should necessarily have focus groups. Now, when they got the inputs from the employees, what did it highlight? The factors and the sub factors highlighted by the employees were hygiene, then whether it is satisfactory, not satisfactory, all those types of things. Okay. So, when you are looking at satisfaction, you are looking at organizational policies, working conditions, growth, job satisfaction, employee employer relationship, all this. Hygiene is the ambience of the workplace. Obviously, you are looking at neat workplaces including toilets, etc. So, everything should be kept clean. The second is what is expected from the customer side. The customer wants the company to do product development, not be stagnant. So, nothing like frog in the well type of policy. I do the same product for years on end. No, especially in the present market situation, if you do not concentrate on new product development, you may have to close shop before you could even think that this is coming, because the competitor will come out with something new. Then the product attributes, service attributes and promotion. So, for the sub factors also weightage was given. For product development 30%, for product attributes 30%, service attributes 20%, promotion 20%. Then with respect to government, what is it that the government may be interested in with respect to a public sector? One is whether it has paid its tax on time, regularly, and the dividends. Then adherence to rules and regulations, then other conditions to economy. Each of these sub factors are again given weightage. So, the tax portion given 30, then rules and regulation given 20, other conditions to economy given 50. Then the last aspect with respect to society, what are the sub factors? So, what is the first quarter, community welfare, rural development, charities and relief measures, each of them having separate weightages. Now, when you looked at the report, these scores with respect to each of these groups giving an indication of IPCL's corporate responsibility, it came out to be 6.125 out of 10. Employees got with a score of 5.1, customers 5.8, government 7, society 6.6. So, the overall score came to 6.125 out of 10. This was the first initiative taken by a public sector company back in 1987. Now, if you look at the present day scenario, most of the companies, whether it is public sector or private sector, they are into this field of CSR. So, you take the examples of Infosys or the Tata Group companies, all those types of things. They have made significant contributions to the field of CSR. So, if you go to page number 64 of chapter 5 in this book on strategic management, it gives you CSR activities mandated by the government of India. Mandated by the government of India, kindly note that. So, it says that now this is also incorporated in the 2013 Companies Act. These guidelines are applicable to every company having a net worth of 500 crores or more, or a turnover of 1000 crores or more, or a net profit of 5 crores or more. Now, what does it entail? It entails forming a CSR committee. The committee would comprise of 3 or more directors, at least one of who should be an independent director. The composition of the committee needs to be included in the board's report. Kindly note all this. So, when you are making a board presentation, whether it is a quarterly one or annual, especially with reference to software companies, all these things have to come out. The committee would formulate the policy, including activities specified in Schedule 7. This Schedule 7 forms an important schedule under the Companies Act. That is, some of them are listed here: eradicating extreme hunger and poverty, promotion of education, promoting gender equality and empowering women, reducing child mortality and improving maternal health, combating immunodeficiency virus, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, malaria and other diseases, ensuring environmental sustainability, then employment of enhancing vocational skills, social business projects, even contribution to Prime Minister's National Relief Fund, all these coming under the CSR activities. In fact, if you look at so many individual initiatives have also been taken up. So, one of these initiatives which was taken up by 2 individuals who were the promoters of Mindtree in Indian Institute of Science itself is with reference to the medical field. So, by 2 gentlemen by name, these 2 founders of Mindtree, that is Mr. Parthasarathi and Subrato Bakchi. So, the institute is likely to come up with a sophisticated multi-speciality hospital soon to cater to many of the things which are mentioned in this Schedule 7. So, this is these are so many of these CSR initiatives taken in the present day Indian context. Okay. We stop here, we will continue in the next session. Thank you.